So there's actually a correction to that. I'm the former mayor of Victor by a week, and Jeff is now the mayor for the city of Victor. Thank you, Hiram, and all the counterparts from both sides of the both states. There's one thing that I would definitely argue with Hiram on, and that is we were the first gigabit community in the state of Idaho by milliseconds. And we are probably the biggest investment opportunity in the Rocky Mountain region. So just to kind of give you a background of Mayor Potter and I, both of us grew up in Jackson. We both moved over to Teton Valley, and specifically Victor, about 10 years ago. Jeff is the business manager over at Snow King Sports and Events Center, a town of Jackson-owned building. His wife is a partner in a Jackson-owned law firm, which is only about a block off of Town Square. My wife is the town clerk for the town of Jackson, so I'm going to try not to say anything to offend Mayor Flintner.
She'll cover for you.
She'll cover for me. Okay, good. And I am a partner in a Jackson-based real estate firm. So we are upper middle class, but living in Victor and heavily connected with Jackson. And I feel like a lot of the time, the conversations kind of stray from trying to address some of the upper middle class to middle class families that are moving over to Victor, and more on the working class families. And I think that needs to be addressed. So we are all not alone. 75% of all households in Victor have at least one commuter employed in Teton County, Wyoming. And Jackson and Victor are connected to the hip in this way. This becomes even more so as Jackson's economy is growing and the cost of living becomes more expensive. The population of Victor has nearly tripled since the first sewer connection in 1998, which I thought was kind of an interesting concept for a lot of people. Is 98 does not seem that long ago to me. But taxable sales continue to grow in Victor by more than 10% per year. Victor is positively increasing financially, recreationally, and culturally. While the recession hit Jackson fairly hard, it affected Teton Valley more because many of the jobs that dried up in Jackson, including construction and tourism jobs, were occupied by people that were housed in Teton Valley. Roughly 180 homes, or 18% of our current housing stock in the city of Victor, was permitted from 2005 to 2007. As the permits dropped off to 13 in 2008, 2 in 2009, 1 in 2010, and then 0 in 2011, 12, and 13. All of these homes became vacant, and the people that occupied them left. This created a multiplier effect that dumped a huge surplus of housing onto the market as the exodus of workers continued from 2008 to 2012. The result was lots were selling in 2007 for $85,000 were closing for as low as $12,000 in 2013. Condos that were selling for $240,000 were closing for as low as $60,000 in 2011. And single-family homes that were selling for $445,000 in 2007 were closing for as low as $205,000 in 2011. Now we are getting to the point of building again, and there have been 7 single-family home permits that were issued in 2014, 17 in 2015, and we expect that number to double in 2016. The median listed price for a single-family home as of this morning in the greater Victor area was $715,000. And that's the median, not the average. But the median sold price in the last year was $290,000. This indicates to me that there's a significant demand for the middle class housing in Victor that we will see the market continue to respond to that demand. Consequently, one of the biggest challenges that we face is how do we create a stable economy that is less dependent on development and tourism? To address some of the current housing shortage concerns, the code that we have adopted allows for many parcels to build backyard cottages. And we believe that this will help the current property owners and the renters by allowing a way to build more cost-effective housing stock on an incremental basis. To help create a synergy downtown that is not as easily disrupted by fluctuations in the Jackson micropolitan economy, the city de-annexed almost 400 acres back into the county, recently adopted a new zoning code, and created an urban renewal district. This will further focus the commercial zoning and future residential densities into the downtown core. We also believe that the new code is going to help give guidance to maintaining and creating a great sense of place within the city core and keep the majority of the new housing stock within walking and biking distance to the downtown businesses and help to support our fledgling commercial core. To aid in walkability and bikeability, and with the generous help from the Teton Valley Trails and Pathways, and Tim Young, and the Lohr Foundation, other private donors, a federal agency grant, and the support of Teton County, Wyoming commissioners, the city of Victor has new pathways connecting most of the existing neighborhoods to the commercial core and will be connecting a pathway to the Wyoming state line. Thanks to the work of the late Councilman A.J. Linnell, Mountain Bike the Tetons, and private donors, we may be adding miles of single track in the surrounding areas in the next year. Another big challenge that faces the Teton Valley community is the perception of the schools. The school system is continually improving in Teton County and Victor. The city, with the help of the Jackson-based Carl Johnson Foundation, was able to acquire a 12.85 acre site specifically for the future schools in Victor. $1.7 million in scholarships were awarded to the 2014 graduating class of 70 students, and 837 college credits were earned by high school students that same year. While the schools have not always been great, there are significant changes taking place in the school systems right now, and driving those changes is the most involved school board that I've ever seen. Please don't just go by what you hear about our valley. Dig in and check things out on your own. Teton Valley is a rapidly changing community, and old information is most certainly outdated. My final message is that there is opportunity in Jackson's closest suburb, and we want to make that known. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mayor Jeff Potter.
So thank you everyone for the opportunity to come and speak with you today. I'm thrilled to fill the large shoes of former Mayor Smith and help lead the city of Victor over the next 4 years as we hopefully address some of these major challenges that we are facing. So with that, I'll get right into Jonathan's third question. What is the single biggest opportunity facing your jurisdiction? Zach alluded to the tied at the hip nature of the Victor community, the Teton Valley community, and Jackson Hole, Teton County, Wyoming as a whole community. And so the biggest opportunity for Victor right now is to be a major part of the housing and transportation issues that we face, be a major part of the solution to those challenges. We've been working with the county, with the city of Driggs, with Fremont County and Madison County, Idaho, and Teton County, Wyoming for the last 3 to 4 years as part of the Greater Yellowstone Consortium Housing and Urban Development Grant that came from HUD and focused on a number of items, but the major deliverable coming from that is a model zoning and development code that was designed and drafted with Victor, Driggs, and Teton County, Idaho. The intent of that code was to create a model that could be applied to other communities throughout the Greater Yellowstone region, but the biggest benefit to Victor is that we have now adopted that new zoning code in our city. As Zach alluded to, it concentrates residential and commercial development in the city core, which supports the county's comprehensive plan and the city's comprehensive plans. And so what the biggest thing that I want to communicate here today is that Victor is ready for the next wave of growth. The boom that we experienced in the mid-2000s occurred in an environment without sound planning principles, in sort of an Old West manner, and it's important for the Jackson community to know that our community has worked very hard over the last 4 years to implement smart growth principles that are going to drive residents and the flow of money to our downtown commercial districts. The new zoning code is a big piece of that. We've also implemented a new urban renewal agency that will capitalize on incremental property tax revenue in the city core and drive those revenues to ongoing public improvements downtown, whether it's infrastructure, streetscape, or incentives for developers to come and work in our community, building new housing or commercial spaces. So what is the biggest thing that the Jackson community can do to support our efforts to grow our community and help firm up our economic base in the city of Victor? The biggest thing that you can do is talk about Victor, talk about Teton Valley as a part of the solution. Electeds, if you can include us in those conversations by reference and by giving us a seat at the table, we are eager to be a part of the solution, and we are eager to participate in your conversations about the greater housing and transportation issues that we're all dealing with. So that's, sort of a philosophical point. The next step of supporting those efforts is through strategic policy making, strategic decisions, strategic planning, coordinated efforts, and further collaboration, be it applying for federal grants or simply coordinating planning on both sides. And then the final big one, I guess, and I'm going to go back to Jonathan's comments at the start regarding transportation, and fasten your britches, because it's going to get worse. And I've lived here a long time, and I'm sure a lot of you would express the same sentiments. I've never seen traffic like we saw last summer. And my understanding of the integrated transportation plan is a desire to double the 1 million riders that START currently has in a certain number of years, and then add another 1 million riders in another comparable period of years. I don't know the specifics of that numbers of years, but tourism is not going to stop renting cars when they come out to visit. The only truly effective way to increase those numbers and to get vehicles off the road, and that's the end goal, is not to increase numbers by shuttling seasonal workers from town to Teton Village or other places. The truly effective way to deal with traffic is to get those vehicles off the road. And so the biggest way that this community can support our efforts to grow and our efforts to be a part of the overall solution to the challenges that we're facing is to greatly expand mass transit over our state line. Currently there are 2 commuter shuttles that run at very early hours of the day. I have kids I have to get to school. I can't take those. They're fairly full from what I understand. And more consistent and constant transportation would give many more people the opportunity to consider using public transportation rather than driving their vehicle over Teton Pass alone and clogging Teton County, Wyoming's roads, particularly in the summer months. If you figure that there are 1,250 daily commuters per the 2013 census coming from Teton Valley, I would estimate that about 1,000 of those are probably individuals riding in their single car. So I think a goal of removing 1,000 vehicles a day from Teton Pass, which would translate into 250,000 additional riders a year on the mass transit system, which is 25% of the ITP's goal, is a reasonable place to start. And you can backtrack from there, do the math. How many buses a day does that mean going over the hill? It's a substantial amount. But in terms of bang for your buck and providing cost-effective ways for the workforce to live in the region, expanding mass transit is a very effective tool to do that. So I thank Jonathan and everyone for coming today, and we look forward to being a partner in the solutions and having those conversations through the rest of the afternoon. Thank you.